Okay, so I attribute almost all of my strength gains to two things over the last couple of years, and that would be consistency. That's probably the biggest thing, and being consistent in training as often as possible with little or no gaps in between the seasons. And the other thing I attributed to from the end of 2017 was the use of flywheel training and not using traditional weights for resistance strength training. And a lot of people at the time when I got this K-Box, Eccentric K-Box, I didn't know anything about flywheel training, very little, but I knew it was incredibly promising. And what I thought was going to be the biggest improvement for me was the added ability of having eccentric overload. But honestly, what I think the biggest advantage of flywheel training is the ability to change your load on the fly. And by that, this is the part I had read about it before I got the K-Box, but didn't understand until I actually used it. And when you use traditional weights, let's just say to keep numbers round, you wanted to do a 200-pound squat. So you do your 200 pounds. Maybe that day you weren't feeling great and were tired, and you could barely make it. But you still went through, let's say, 3x5 sets. Let's say on another day you felt amazing and you banged out 3x5, no problem. Well, the problem is you just kind of wasted time there. In both situations, one, it was too heavy for you when you weren't feeling great, and the other one was it wasn't heavy enough for you, but you still did your prescribed 3x5 workout. With the K-Box, you can adapt per rep. Let's say you do a 3x5. First rep, you feel, hey, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. Let me push it a little bit. And how you would do that is you would speed up the flywheel by pulling harder, or however, whatever exercise you're doing. In this case, a squat, you'd be standing up. Conversely, if you're not feeling great, you could say, hey, I'm not feeling like a hero today. Let me slow it down and take it easy. And that's the best part of this flywheel training, is that adaptability per rep, not per set, and the granularity that you can record and find out how that each rep was. As a cyclist, and anyone's a cyclist that's watching this knows, we measure things by watts per watt. That is a granularity of measurement that does not exist with traditional weights because of gravity. You can do it ounces, but that's not practical. The lightest plate you can get is probably a quarter pound, a half a pound. You probably get quarter pound, but that's ridiculous. You'd be blowing through an entire workout before you even figured out what the proper weight is, and by then you've had fatigue in. Where this is, bam, rep 1, I feel great. Rep 2, bang it out. Rep 3, I feel like crap. Rep 4, I take it easy. That just doesn't happen with traditional weights, and the last several years, with the progress I've had in sport, I'm trying to figure out what was the holy grail that allowed it to happen. And again, it's those two things. It's the consistency of the training, for sure. That's probably the biggest component. But then the efficiency of my time and effort using the K-Box or flywheel training. And to that, I'm going to demonstrate how I do a split squat, harnessed, supported, elevated heel squat. And I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like on the screen because I'm recording it. And the beauty of this is the app, the K-Meter app, which reads everything with that granularity of a watt. And now it's giving me concentric wattage data. And what I'll do is I'll break down what just happened on each one of those reps in a minute. Okay, so this is what the K-Meter app start screen looks like. I'm going to do a regular split squat.
And this is how it starts. And what happens is you'll have your concentric and eccentric on the screen show up for peak power. And the blue is the eccentric, the orange, the concentric power in watts. And this is your finish screen after 5 reps. Gives you average immediately, power and force. You can configure all this stuff, what gets displayed: average power, concentric power, eccentric peak power, peak overload, watts per kilo, your range of motion, your speed of the bar or yourself, and just going back up the screen so you can see it more, average force in newtons. And what I'm going to show you is each individual screen slower, and this is going back to when you're starting another set. And like I said, this is your finished screen, and Eccentric came up with a score which averages, it takes into account speed, power, watts per kilo. And again, this is what the bar graph looks like: blue for your eccentric peak power, orange for your concentric peak power, and these are the display screens again. Like I said, this gives you a ton of data.
But that's basically what I wanted to share with you today. Thanks for watching.